Mike Tyson's Punch-Out is one of my favourite games of all time. When I was much younger, my dad, brother and I would each take turns in figuring out the variety of opponents and seeing who could get the farthest. Later on, I would dive into the speedrunning scene for this game and would really find out how deep the rabbit hole went. There was an incredible amount of knowledge for my brain to absorb, and I was obsessed with it. When I could learn little more from speedrunning MTPO, I turned to playing high score, blindfolded, and even some ROM hacks to see if there was anything new to discover. Eventually, I learned how to make a TAS, or a tool-assisted speedrun of the game. If you're unsure what a tool-assisted speedrun is, it's a speedrun where the creator can create a playthrough of the game using save states, slowdowns, frame advance, and RNG manipulation in order to get the desired playthrough. One day, I thought to myself, I have all of this knowledge of the game, and I know enough about tassing to create a desired playthrough. I wonder how many punches are needed to beat Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, assuming optimal luck and perfect play. If you feel like taking a guess yourself, post a comment down below. I'm interested in what you all think, and I heard it's good for the algorithm or something. Before I unveil my findings, I think it's worth explaining the 3 ways you can win fights in this game. Firstly, there is the technical knockout, or TKO. This ending happens when one of the boxers is knocked down 3 times in a single round. Pretty simple. Secondly, there is the regular knockout, or KO. How the game determines if a knockout happens is quite complicated, and in some cases can also be influenced by RNG. Although for the purposes of this challenge, there aren't any knockouts that are influenced by the RNG. And thirdly, if the timer expires on round 3, the judges will have to determine a winner. This one is also pretty simple. The game will simply check how many points you have accumulated, and if you have enough, you will be awarded the victory. Now, there are 14 total fights in the game, and interestingly, not every fight can be beaten in all 3 ways. Here are all the ways you can win each fight. Just to clear it up, in the top left corner is the first fight, Glass Joe, and he can be beaten in all 3 ways: TKO, KO, and by accumulating at least 5,000 points. In the second column at the bottom is the champion of the major circuit, Bold Bull, and he can only be beaten by TKO. In the third column, Piston Honda, Bold Bull, and Don Flamenco's pictures have the number 2 in the top right corner, and this is just indicating they are the rematch fights. Also, during the fights, I have used a Lua script to show additional information that is not usually shown to the player. You'll now be able to see both Little Mac and the opponent's health, as well as how much damage was dealt by a punch, and the amount of health an opponent is going to get up with. Now that all of that basic information is out of the way, let's see how many punches are needed to beat Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Our first fight is Glass Joe, and if you're even a little bit familiar with the Punch-Out franchise, this guy is pitifully easy. Fun fact, the moderators for the game on speedrun.com, and I believe that includes myself, as I was a moderator at one point, got sick and tired of so many people submitting the tied world record time of 42 seconds flat. It really is that easy, and to give a conservative estimate, I reckon at least 100,000 people have achieved that time. More importantly, that perfect time can also be achieved with the minimum number of punches. Just 1. When Glass Joe charges forward from his Vive la France attack, there is a 4-frame window where if you land a punch, Glass Joe will be knocked out. You can tell if you were too early because he will block your punch, and you can tell if you were too late because he will get up instead of staying down. He performs this signature move 3 times during the fight, but the first one occurs at 40 seconds into round 1. Since I'm tassing this playthrough, I can perfectly time every punch I do, but how practical is it to do if you are playing the game normally? Well, all you need to do is land a punch on one of 4 possible frames, and if you are wondering, this game runs at 60 frames per second. That means hitting a window of just 65 milliseconds. There also isn't a convenient audio or visual cue, but there are 100% consistent strategies to remove the need to time anything. Unfortunately, they involve the use of more punches, which defeats the purpose of this challenge. There is a buffer strategy you can use from the start of the fight which uses only dodges and a single punch. In this game, you can buffer your inputs by holding buttons to perform a move, and the next possible frame that this move can be executed, it will be performed. This means you can chain inputs together to ensure there is no delay in between them. This dodge-only buffer was originally thought up by speedrunner Awijui, but I'm sure the one I came up with for the purpose of this video is slightly different. Just buffer 24 slow right dodges from the very start of the fight, and then a left gut punch. When Joe backs up at 40 seconds, if he beeps twice, your gut punch will be timed perfectly. If he beeps 4 times, you'll have to time your punch manually. Alright, we got a perfect start to this run, beating Glass Joe in a single punch. Let's see what we can do with the German steel machine, Von Kaiser. Unlike Glass Joe, most of the fights in this game don't have one-hit knockouts, and we will have to use more than one punch. Von Kaiser is one of these fights, so I'll have to explore some other options. The earliest possible time you can get a KO on Von Kaiser is if you knock him down for the 3rd time using a star punch. So, we might as well just try and knock him down all 3 times in a single round and win by TKO. I don't think getting 8,000 points in fewer punches than it takes to get a TKO is viable at the moment, but I'm not going to rule it out just yet. Even though there is no way to get a one-hit KO, there is a way to get a one-hit knockdown. If Von Kaiser is stunned from one of your regular punches, a star punch will instantly knock him down. So now, how do I get a star in as few punches as possible? Well, it turns out Von Kaiser will give out his first star only as early as the 8th landed punch for Little Mac. Getting stars as soon as possible will be extremely important for many fights in this run, so I will have to take time now to explain to you exactly how to get stars in this game. In Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, there are 2 types of stars in the game, guaranteed stars and random stars. Let's talk about guaranteed stars first. Memory address 0347 keeps track of the punches you land on your opponent. Every time you land a punch, the value of this punch counter decreases by 1. All the way down to a minimum value of 1. Once this value gets to 1, the game now knows to give you a star on the next eligible punch. Basically, not a dodge and stun punch. If you do land a stun punch, the punch counter will just stay at 1. Since it takes 8 punches to get your first star on Von Kaiser, the punch counter at the start of the fight begins at 8. Once we get this star, we can see the punch counter jump up to 2. This means that we can get our next guaranteed star in a minimum of 2 punches. And from now on, whenever we get a guaranteed star on Von Kaiser, the punch counter will reset to 2. This is actually very typical in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. The punch counter will start at a specific initial value, and whenever it resets, it will reset to a different value and then keep resetting to that value. In the case of Von Kaiser, we will get our first guaranteed star as early as the 8th punch, and then every subsequent guaranteed star will be as early as every 2nd punch. If you are wondering, Glass Joe's punch counter starts at 20 and then resets to 8 after getting the first star. Okay, so how about random stars? Well, a random star can be gotten on any punch as long as it wasn't a stun punch, of course, where the punch counter is not already at 1. However, there is a catch. Well, actually, there are 2 catches. Firstly, you need to already have a star in the bank. That means there is absolutely no way to get a star before the 8th punch on Von Kaiser. And the second catch? Even if you already have a star in the bank, you need to get lucky, which is why they are called random stars. On Von Kaiser, the chance to get a random star is 50%, which is a pretty typical value throughout the game, but is not universal. So, if we need to go for random stars, we need to remember to hold on to at least 1 star in the bank, and then get lucky. Since I'm tassing the game, I can make sure we get every random star we've ever wanted. So, we can keep track of 2 things now with perfect play. How many punches are needed to beat the game? And even if you did play perfectly, how lucky do we need to be? For the first knockdown on Von Kaiser, I just used the normal speedrun strategy, which gets the first star as fast as possible, and then stunning and knocking him down. The stun punch reduces the punch counter to 1, so we can get a star on the first punch of round 2. If you weren't counting, that was a total of 10 punches so far. After this knockdown, Von Kaiser gets up on a 1 count. 1 counts in this game are very special. If you can land a star punch when an opponent has just gotten up on a 1 count, they will instantly be knocked back down to the mat. Only some fighters in the game can get up on 1 counts, and specific conditions usually must be met in order to trigger them. In order to trigger Von Kaiser to get up on a 1 count on the first knockdown, you must make sure Little Mac still has full health. This is actually the only possible way to trigger a 1 count for Von Kaiser. You can't make him get up on a 1 count any other way, and it also must be on his first knockdown. So, after Kaiser gets up on the 1 count, We could just grab a star and then knock him down with a star punch. But there is one other little quirk with the punch counter. It will not decrease by 1 on punches that knock down the opponent. Instead, I will perform a little guard manipulation, grab a guaranteed star and a random star with 2 left gut punches, and then star punch for the knockdown. That's 13 punches so far. With Von Kaiser getting up with a low refill of 16 health, and us having got that random star, we can simply land a star punch directly after his uppercut, which deals 19 damage and secure the win. If we landed the star punch another way, it wouldn't have done enough damage to knock him down. It took 14 punches to dismantle Von. Let's see how we do against Piston Honda. Piston Honda 1 is an interesting fight because he will actually always give us guaranteed stars since the punch counter begins at the value of 1 and resets to the value of 1. He can even get up on a 1 count on his first knockdown if we keep Mac at full health. However, we don't need any of these things to beat this guy in the minimum amount of punches. Piston Honda 1 has his signature Bonsai Attack, which he will perform whenever the clock reaches a certain time. If you time your punch correctly, you can actually knock him down in a single punch. So, how often does he perform this attack? He'll perform it twice in round 1 at 1 minute and at 2 minutes 40, twice in round 2 at 40 seconds and 2 minutes 20, and 3 times in round 3 at 20 seconds, 2 minutes 30, and 2 minutes 40. We simply need to dodge all of his punches until round 3, counter all 3 Bonsai attacks in round 3, and we can win by TKO in just 3 punches. Piston Honda 1 can also be knocked out, but it would take at least 4 punches to do so, because his earliest knockout is on his 4th knockdown, and that KO is also random. So that's a pretty good start, eh? Beating the first 3 fights in the game with only 18 punches, and we've only needed to win a coin flip to get the optimal result on Von Kaiser. Let's see what the major circuit has in store for us, beginning with Don Flamenco. Firstly, I can rule out getting 10,000 points in this guy to win by decision. That just seems completely unviable. So, we're gonna have to win by either TKO or KO. We can't get any instant knockouts on this guy, but landing any sort of star punch will knock him down in a single hit. To complement this, just like Piston Honda 1, the punch count is perpetually locked at 1, so stars will be readily available. There is also another neat fact. If we knock down Don twice in under a single minute and we don't take any damage, he will be knocked out and we will be able to win this fight in only 2 knockdowns. Don Flamenco 1 is the most passive fighter in the game. He won't actually attack you until you attack him. So to begin, I punch him, which gets blocked, and then he retaliates with an uppercut. If you delay your punch just right, you can actually get a star here. If you don't delay enough, you'll just end up stunning Don, and if you delay too much, you will get blocked. In fact, the punch you need to deliver is frame perfect, which means you have 1/60th of a second to time it, which is pretty tough. However, we can use a buffer which was originally discovered by Zalad1 to delay our punch perfectly every single time. If we perform a left gut punch, then perform a slow left dodge, followed by a quick left dodge and a face punch, we will end up getting the frame perfect star every single time. Now that we have the star, I'll use it right away to get the first knockdown in just 3 punches. When Don gets to his feet, he will immediately try to uppercut us. We can intercept this punch with a left gut punch for another star, and then dodge the following uppercut and star punch. Since I managed to do all of this in under 1 minute, he will be knocked out. 5 punches is all it took, and I'm pretty confident it's not going any lower than this. So now, it's on to King Hippo. King Hippo is probably the most unique fight in the game, since we can't win by decision, can't get any stars on him at all, and we only need to knock him down a single time to win by KO. There is also only one way to begin dealing damage to him, and that is to counter his open mouth punches. I can already tell this is going to take a lot of punches to get the win. If you hit him in the mouth, your face punch deals 3 damage, and each gut punch also deals 3 damage. Since he begins with 96 health, it's going to take 32 punches to get the win. However, there is actually a way to deal more damage to him. On the very first punch, when his mouth is open, if your punch landed on one of the first 5 frames, it will actually deal 5 damage. If we land 18 of these 5 damage punches and 2 gut punches, King Hippo can actually be beaten in just 20 punches. So, if it's gonna take Hippo to open his mouth 18 times, how lucky do we need to be? Well, on any given punch, King Hippo has a 3 in 8 chance to do an open mouth punch. Using the optimal playstyle for this challenge, over the course of a whole round, King Hippo will perform about 37 punches, which is 111 times over the course of a whole fight. But we can still do better. At the start of round 2 and 3, he is programmed to always perform an open mouth punch, so now we only need 16 opens in 109 opportunities. After doing some quick math, getting the necessary amount of opens over the course of a whole fight is almost guaranteed, so that brings the total number of punches up to 43, with the only random element being the 50% random star on Von Kaiser. Following King Hippo is Great Tiger. This guy has a few neat things we could abuse: perpetual guaranteed stars and potential 1 counts after his first and second knockdowns if we can get them early enough. However, he also falls into the same trap as Piston Honda 1, overusing his signature move and being vulnerable to a 1-hit knockdown following his signature move. Also, just like Piston Honda 1, Great Tiger will perform his magic tiger punches whenever the clock hits a certain time. He will perform the move once in round 1 at 2 minutes 30, 3 times in round 2, immediately when the round starts, at 1 minute 30 and 2 minutes 30, and 3 times in round 3, immediately when the round starts, and at 1 minute 20 and 2 minutes 20. All we have to do is avoid all of his punches until round 2, and then score a 1-hit knockdown on all 3 of his magic tiger punches in round 2, and we will win by TKO. Another fighter down in just 3 punches. The first 6 fights in the game are generally considered pretty easy by newer players, but there is a noticeable spike in difficulty when we come to the champ of the major circuit, Bold Bull. Just like Great Tiger, Bold Bull 1 cannot be defeated by knockout, and since he is the champion, we won't be able to win by decision. The only way to defeat him is to knock him down 3 times in a single round and win by TKO. In this challenge, Bold Bull's greatest weapon is also his greatest weakness, his bull charge. If you time a gut punch within a 6-frame window, you can instantly knock him down to the mat. Mistime your punch, and you will be sent to the canvas. There is a neat crowd cue to help you time your punch. This guy's camera flashes right when you need to time your gut punch. Unfortunately, Bold Bull only performs this signature move twice in each of the rounds, so unlike Piston Honda 1 and Great Tiger, we won't be able to counter 3 of them in a single round to win in 3 punches. Generally, as the fight goes on and your opponent gets knocked down more and more, they will get up with less and less health each time. Here is a picture that describes how much health Bold Bull will get up with after each knockdown. The first potential route I thought of was to try and use the 1 count at the end of the fight to get the final knockdown with a single star punch. Bold Bull's punch counter begins at 2 and resets to 2, so guaranteed stars can be gotten on every second punch, with random stars in between at a 50% chance, just like Von Kaiser. At first, my plan was to counter the first 5 bull charges from Bold Bull. This would take me to a point in the fight just after the 1 minute 10 mark in round 3, and Bold Bull would get up with 64 health. Since all of the punches so far have resulted in a knockdown, the punch counter is still at a value of 2. I dodge the first hook and stun him, which brings the punch counter down to 1, and then I land a delayed punch so I can get a star, dealing 10 damage in total. I avoid his next hook and land my star punch for a maximum of 23 damage. I then avoid a third hook and land a single delayed punch for another guaranteed star. Finally, Bold Bull begins to uppercut, and I land a very difficult delayed punch, which gets me a random star. With Bold Bull at low enough health and 2 stars in the bank, I dodge another hook and star punch, which sends him to the canvas. After all of that planning, Bold Bull gets up on a 1 count, and I can get the final knockdown in a single star punch. Overall, this route required me to land 5 punches on his 5 bull charges, then 6 punches to get the second knockdown in round 3, with a star ready for the final knockdown to get the TKO. This route had a grand total of 12 punches, and only required 1 random star, which was another 1 in 2. But then, I had a brand new idea. One that I originally thought would be impossible. But if it worked, we wouldn't even have to leave round 1. We begin the fight, and I immediately land a punch to bring the punch counter to 1, so our next punch will be a guaranteed star. You can do this anytime you want, but preferably before the first bull charge at 2 minutes. Just dodge all of his punches until the 2-minute mark and then counter the first bull charge for the first knockdown. We then want to get to 2 stars. Our first will be a guaranteed one and the second will be random, which we'll get 50% of the time, and I do this by intercepting 2 hooks. After that, just keep dodging again until the bull charge at 2 minutes 30 and counter it for the second knockdown. That's 5 punches so far. On Bold Bull's second knockdown, he can actually get up with 2 different refills, 80 HP and 72 HP. We need the 72 refill, which is only a 1 in 4 chance. For the final knockdown, we land a delayed punch on a hook to deal 5 damage and get a guaranteed star. We have 3 stars in the bank, and the most amount of damage we can do with a star punch in this fight is 23, so with our 3 stars, we can deal a total of 69 damage. We just beat Bold Bull in only 9 punches, and I don't think it's going any lower than that. You see how the timer is quite close to the end of the round? That was the original reason I thought this route was going to be impossible. I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough time to grab a 3rd star and land 3 star punches in that final phase of the fight, and to be perfectly honest, it's not always possible. When Bold Bull backs up for his bull charge, he can delay a random amount of time at the back of the ring before charging towards Little Mac. The earliest he can charge forwards drains about 3.5 seconds of clock time, but it is possible he could delay a lot longer. From the earliest possible time he can bull charge, the game will check to perform the next bull charge every 20 frames. If he delays too long, you won't have enough time for the final phase. The round will end and you will have failed to win the fight in the minimum amount of punches. Unfortunately, I'm not exactly sure how the game determines when he bull charges, and even if I did, I'm not sure how to calculate the odds of getting a fast enough delay to complete the fight. However, I can estimate that you will get a fast enough bull charge about 1 in every 3 attempts. Finally, at almost the last point in the fight, there is another RNG check which determines Bold Bull's pattern. There is a 1 in 4 chance you will get rolling jabs instead of the 3rd hook. This takes a little longer, but it is still possible to complete the fight. So all in all, you need to win a 1 in 2 random star, a 1 in 4 good refill, and a 1 in 3 fast enough bull charge, which brings the odds to about 1 in 24. Oh, and that final star punch, the one directly after the uppercut? Yeah, well, there is a 9 in 16 chance you'll have to quick dodge that frame perfectly in order to land that star punch. The other 7 in 16 chance is that you'll have a slightly bigger window, but it's all technically still doable regardless of luck. To recap the major circuit, Don Juan can be a guaranteed victory in 5 punches. King Hippo has tanked the most hits so far with 20, but that's basically just a limitation of how he can only use regular punches during that fight. Great Tiger went down in just 3 punches, and Bold Bull could be beaten in as few as 9 punches, but the odds weren't great, at only 1 in 24. Overall, the major circuit went down in just 37 punches, and the only random fight was Bold Bull. On to the world circuit. The rematch with Piston Honda is up first, and I already know this is going to be an easy one. He can get up on a 1 count on his second knockdown, and the threshold to beat him by decision is an extremely low 3,000 points, but they aren't the real kicker here. If you counter his Bonsai Attack, which is now just a 4-frame window, he will stay down, and this fight can be over by knockout in just 1 punch. He will perform his signature Bonsai Attack several times throughout the fight, but the earliest one occurs at the 1-minute mark in round 1. There is even a crowd cue to help you time your gut punch. This is the beard guy. He will nod his head to tell you it's time to punch. A perfect start to the world circuit, with Piston Honda going down in a single punch. Up next is the Carbonated Cannonball. Soda Popinski is a seriously tough opponent, and another significant jump in difficulty, as he really has some speed and power. He can't be knocked out until his 5th knockdown, so that seems like an unlikely option, and reaching 10,000 points is pretty much out of the question. Fortunately, he does have a very interesting quirk. You can knock him down with a star punch instantaneously, but we need to make preparations before landing the star punch. When Soda ducks down for an uppercut, if you hold down, Soda will actually stay crouched for a few seconds. In this state, you can actually punch Soda in the gut, and this sets a flag within the game's memory. This flag tells the game that the next star punch you land will result in an instant knockdown. Awesome! So now we know a way to knock him down very quickly 3 times. Now all we need to worry about is how to get stars. Well, on Soda, the punch counter begins at a value of 1 and resets to the value of 2. So after getting the initial star, at best we can only get a guaranteed star every second punch, and random stars in this guy occur at a rate of 50%. The best route I came up with is beginning the fight intercepting one of his hooks with a right face punch for a star, and then dodging the other hook. We now need to wait for uppercuts, which are 75% likely after hooks. If he doesn't go into uppercuts, he will go back into hooks, and then we have another 75% chance, and so on. Once he goes into uppercuts, I dodge the first and then hold down for the second. I gut punch, which sets the flag for the instant knockdown, and also get a random star, which we absolutely need. After this gut punch, I buffer a star punch and it will connect into either a hook or a straight jab from Soda. That's 1 knockdown and 3 punches used. In phase 2, we can do a similar thing, but since we already have a star, I just dodge both hooks and wait for uppercuts. I dodge the first uppercut and hold down to lock Soda down for the second uppercut, gut punch to set the flag and pick up a guaranteed star, and star punch for the second knockdown. 2 more punches used. Phase 3 is just a repetition of phase 2. I lock Soda down during his second uppercut, gut punch to set the flag, and star punch for the TKO, and we managed to get the win in just 7 punches. I thought I might have been able to do it in 6 punches, given how you only need to set the flag and land a star punch in each phase of the fight. But because of how the punch counter doesn't increment during knockdown punches, I needed to use an extra punch for a random star in phase 1. Since we only needed that one random star, I'll put the odds of beating this fight in 7 punches at 50%. Technically, the odds are slightly lower since you also need 3 uppercut patterns, and even though they are 75% likely, Soda is under no obligation to ever give them. But I have yet to see a speedrun where a round 1 victory wasn't achieved because Soda threw that many hooks. It's only been 2 fights, but we're back to fight our old nemesis, Bold Bull. This fight is a surprising one. Unlike Bold Bull 1, Bold Bull 2 can be defeated in all 3 ways: TKO, KO, and decision. Here's a couple of new gimmicks as well. Firstly, he can no longer be knocked down by regular punches. He can only be knocked down with a star punch or countering his bull charge. And secondly, in rounds 1 and 2 only, if you dodge his bull charge, he'll back up to perform a bull charge from only halfway. In this fight, the window to counter the full-length bull charge is just 4 frames, but the halfway bull charge is a massive 13 frames, which is basically a freebie. The beard guy, who helps you on Piston Honda 2, also helps here with countering the bull charge. After examining the fight, he performs his bull charge once in round 1 at 2 minutes, twice in round 2 at 30 seconds and at 2 minutes, and 3 times in round 3 at 30 seconds, 1 minute 10, and at 2 minutes. Looks like he's going to suffer the same fate as Piston Honda 1 and Great Tiger by overusing their signature move. Seems like another victory in just 3 punches. Well, you'd be wrong. We can win in just 1 punch. The bull charge in round 3 works a little differently to that of rounds 1 and 2. Firstly, if you dodge the bull charge, he will still back up the full length of the ring. That means you'll have to counter within the difficult 4-frame window. However, there is another catch. If you counter on the first of these 4 frames, the game will treat it like a regular knockdown. However, if you counter on any of the last 3 frames, surprisingly, Bold Bull will not be able to recover, and a win by knockout can be achieved in just a single punch. That's 2 of the 3 rematch fights out of the way, and funnily enough, both Piston Honda and Bold Bull went down in fewer punches the second time around. Up next is the 3rd and final rematch, with Don Flamenco. Don 2. How every Mike Tyson's Punch-Out speedrunner loves to hate you. If you're wondering why we all love to hate him, it's because he does not give up stars easily. Initially, the punch counter begins at 1, so we can immediately get a guaranteed star. But after this star, the punch counter resets to 7. So essentially, there are 6 punches in a row where we can only go for random stars. However, unlike every other fight up to this point with random stars, Don Flamenco 2 does not give them out with 1 in 2 odds. Instead, random stars are awarded at the supremely low rate of just 1 in 16. That's right, just 6.25% of the time. So not only are the guaranteed stars spaced 7 punches apart, the random stars are also exceedingly rare. There are no one-hit KOs, no one-punch knockdowns, and no possible one counts. The odds of beating this guy in the fewest amount of punches is going to be abysmally low. Don 2 can't even be defeated by knockout until at least his 5th knockdown, so it's likely I'm going to have to knock him down 3 times in a single round. There are a few interesting things about Don 2 we can utilize though. On his first knockdown, he can get up with 3 different health values, 80, 72, and 64. Obviously we're going to want the lower refill, and that has odds of just 1 in 8. On Don 2's second knockdown, if Mac has full health, he will always get up with 56 health, but we can do better. By having Mac not at full health on the second knockdown, Don 2 can get up with 3 different health values, 80, 72, and 40, and the odds of getting that 40 health refill? 1 in 8. Before the fight begins, I press select. On any fight from the first Bold Bull fight onwards, if you press select before the fight begins, Little Mac's health can be reduced to half. I do this so I can get that 40 HP refill for the third knockdown. I start the fight by landing 2 gut punches, the first getting a guaranteed star and the second getting a random star. I then dodge his hook and star punch for a maximum of 27 damage. I grab another random star and dodge another hook and star punch again for max damage. I grab a third random star and then wait for a hook and star punch to get the knockdown. Good start. We've done 7 punches and gotten our first knockdown and are 2 punches away from our next guaranteed star. With the 1 in 8 low refill, Don 2 only has 64 health for phase 2. Now check this out. We don't even need another random star. We gut punch twice, missing the random star, and finally earning our second guaranteed star. Now Don has exactly 54 health remaining and we have 2 stars in the bank. Using both those 2 stars directly after hooks will deal that 54 damage, bringing the total number of punches to 11 at the end of phase 2. And that's all we need. In just 2 knockdowns, we've reached the threshold for the judges to give us a win by decision, which was just 5,000 points. We can just dodge every single punch Don throws for the rest of the fight, and we've won in just 11 punches. But how probable is this fight? Gonna be honest, I thought the odds were going to be way worse than what they were, considering I didn't realize we would end up winning by decision, as I had initially planned on needing the low refill for the final phase. We only needed 3 out of 3 random stars, which are 1 in 16 each, and the 1 in 8 low refill for phase 2. That brings the odds to a grand total of 1 in 32,768. Odds this bad are by far the worst we will see in this challenge, but even these odds pale in comparison to what is required to match the fastest possible times on these fights. Only 3 fights to go. Up next is Mr. Sandman. Mr. Sandman is a tough fight, with some people placing him second in difficulty behind Mike Tyson. One little known fact about this guy is that it is actually possible to get stars in this fight. For some reason, the programmers at the start of round 1 set the punch counter to -1, and since the punch counter can only decrease by 1 each time you punch him, it is never going to reach the value of 1, which means we won't be able to get any guaranteed stars. However, when you start round 3, the punch counter gets set to 1, and we can now get a guaranteed star on the first punch. So to beat Mr. Sandman in as few punches as possible, we are going to have to dodge until round 3. Another great thing about Sandman in round 3 is that his guard slows down, and we can do basic guard manipulation like holding up to raise his guard, releasing up, and then performing a gut punch. This will nab us our first guaranteed star of the fight. Sandman's punch counter resets to 4, so at best we can only get a guaranteed star every 4th punch, and punches in between can be random stars which occur at a rate of 50%. Sandman does not have any one-hit KOs, one-hit knockdowns, or one counts. He can't be knocked out until his 6th knockdown, and winning by decision is impossible. We are going to have to win by TKO in round 3. On Sandman's second knockdown, he has a random refill. He has a 25% chance to get up with 80 health, but a 75% chance to get up with only 64 health. There was a couple of angles I could approach to scoring the TKO in as few punches as possible. I tested both, and they ended up resulting in the exact same amount of punches. After landing the initial gut punch, I grabbed 2 random stars back to back, and then land a star punch directly after an uppercut for max damage. The punch counter is back to 1, so I grab a guaranteed star, and land another unstunned star punch directly after a hook for max damage. Sandman throws another uppercut, and I land another unstunned star punch. With Sandman at only 7 health left, I land another gut punch for another random star, and dodge a hook and score the knockdown with a regular punch. Phase 1 was over in 9 punches. The basic strategy was to always maintain at least 1 star in the bank so I could get random stars whenever I needed. If the punch counter wasn't at 1 and Sandman had a bunch of health left, I would use a star punch to land as much damage as possible. Phase 2 continued with this strategy and was handled in 7 punches. After getting the low refill, I grab a random star right before the Dreamland Express and then unleash all 3 star punches to finish the final phase of the fight in 4 punches. Even with star punches, it still took as many as 20 punches to take out Sandman, now tied with King Hippo for taking the most hits. As for the random factors, there was a total of 5 random stars at 50% each and 1 low refill, which was 75%. There was also a bunch of random patterns I also had to navigate, but in this case, they didn't decrease the odds of winning in 20 punches. Overall, the odds for pulling a 20 punch victory on Sandman was 3 in 128, and a whole lot of tight execution required. We are now the number 1 contender to the World Circuit title, and the penultimate boss stands in our way, Super Macho Man. Super Macho Man is probably my favourite fight in this game. His guard responds very quickly to your up presses and recovers slowly in rounds 1 and 2, making guard manipulation very fluid. And because of this, it's the fight I have probably spent the second most amount of time practicing. Macho cannot be defeated by KO until his 4th knockdown, and he cannot be defeated by decision. There are no one-hit knockouts, no one-hit knockdowns, and no one counts. Our best bet is to win by TKO in round 1. There are no fancy strategies to make him get up with less health. In fact, if Little Mac is not at full health, Macho will end up getting up with larger refills, so we definitely do not want to get hit. His punch counter begins at 4, and after getting our first guaranteed star, it will always reset to 2. In this fight, random stars are awarded at a rate of 37.5%. There is also a couple of fancy guard manipulations we can do to make star punches deal 19 damage, so we will want to use those where possible. The only thing is that Macho needs to be standing still for the guard manipulations to work, which he does right before he performs his single spin punch. Okay, let's get into the fight. I land 3 punches right away at the start of the fight to get the punch counter to 1, and on my 4th punch, I get my first star. I then land a second delayed punch for a random star, and a third delayed punch for another guaranteed star. Macho then goes into his single spin punch pattern, which has the long delay where he stands completely still. Perfect time to land some max damage star punches. I land these max damage star punches and get guaranteed stars in between, and manage to drop Macho for the first time in 11 punches with 2 stars in the bank. Because we are at full health, phase 2 begins with Macho at 56 health. After Macho has taken a knockdown, he is programmed to always perform a super spin punch with 2 varying delays beforehand. We want the longer of these 2 delays, so we can perform a max damage star punch and a gut punch for a guaranteed star. He then performs his spin punch, which I dodge, and land a spin sucker, dealing 19 damage. Right after this, he stands still again for a little while, and we can perform another max damage star punch with a special guard manipulation. We get our second knockdown in 4 punches, bringing the total to 15. We have 0 stars in the bank, but we will get a guaranteed star on the next punch. If we are still at full health here, Macho will only get up with 48 hit points. I came up with 2 different approaches to this phase. However, I went with the one that makes the odds slightly friendlier. I land a right gut punch for a guaranteed star, and then a max damage star punch directly after, which requires the long delay again. After dodging the super spin punch, I land a tricky delayed right gut punch for another guaranteed star, and then perform another max damage star punch before Macho returns to his regular pattern, getting the third knockdown in just 4 punches, and bringing the total to 19 punches for this fight. Now, here comes the tricky part. Calculating the odds. There was one random star required, which was 37.5% likely, and we needed a long delay before each super spin punch, which are 50% each. However, there are still some more random factors. In phase 1, we needed Macho to go into his single spin punch pattern, which is 62.5% likely after his initial 3 punches. If we got unlucky, he would perform his initial 3 punches again, and we would have another chance at the good pattern. However, when he does go into this good pattern, he needs to give us a long enough delay before the single spin punch so we can land all the required punches to score the knockdown. The odds of getting a long enough delay are 75% likely here. In theory, it would be possible to play it safe and not try to land so many punches, and wait for a second single spin punch pattern to land the remaining punches. But because this is only the first knockdown, there are also some time constraints to consider, as we need to complete the fight within the time limit. I spent some extra time tassing alternate routes to see if I could get more accurate odds, even going as far as to messing around in round 2, where he is guaranteed to have some delays at the 1 and 2 minute marks due to some timed attacks. However, I was unsuccessful, as you are still required to get good patterns in order to have enough time to pull the fight off. To recap, there was 1 random star required, 2 long delays for each of the super spin punches, and if we play risky, 75% likely we would get a long enough delay for the single spin punch. That puts the odds of pulling off the fight at around 7%. Given we could play safe, and the fact we have multiple chances of getting the good pattern, which has odds of 62.5%, I would estimate the chance of pulling off this fight to be somewhere between 7 and 12%, which isn't too bad. There is only one fight to go now. The baddest man on the planet, Mike Tyson. Being the final boss of the game, you're probably thinking it's going to take a lot of punches to get the win. The fastest way to win this fight is what is required in the speedrun, over 20 frame perfect punches, as well as above average luck. However, if we wait until round 2, it is finally possible to start earning stars, so a round 1 victory is going to take way too many punches. It is possible to beat Mike Tyson via knockout as well, however, it can only occur on the 6th knockdown. And there are 2 possible 1 counts, one on the 3rd knockdown and another on the 5th knockdown if the conditions for each are met. But we don't need either of those things, because it's possible to knock down Tyson in a single punch. There are 3 points in the fight where Tyson will stand still and blink for a couple of seconds before unleashing a flurry of punches. During this blinking, Mike Tyson is unable to block, and punching him during this time will almost always result in getting a star. However, during this enormous span of vulnerability, there are 2 frames that exist where if you land a punch, Tyson will immediately be sent to the canvas. The 3 times Tyson performs this move are at 1 minute 30 in round 2, 2 minutes 30 in round 2, and 1 minute 30 in round 3. Unfortunately, we won't be able to win by TKO in just 3 punches. The route I came up with was to dodge every single punch in round 1, which was simple enough, and then dodge every punch in round 2 up to the first blinking pattern at 1 minute 30, and hitting the 2 frame punch for the first knockdown. We repeat this process again, dodging every single punch up until the second blinking pattern at 2 minutes 30, and hitting the 2 frame punch again to score the second knockdown. Because Little Mac is still at full health for the second knockdown, Tyson is guaranteed to get up with only 40 health. There is less than 30 seconds left in the round, and we need to deal 40 damage. To begin, you can perform a slow left dodge, right quick dodge face punch buffer to land a frame perfect punch for a guaranteed star on the first hook. On the second hook, you need to time another frame perfect punch manually to get a random star. Finally, after the third hook, we unleash both star punches, and Tyson has just been defeated in only 6 punches. The odds of beating Tyson in 6 punches aren't even that bad. All we needed was a random star and a good pattern at the end of the fight. Funnily enough, the random star is actually guaranteed. For some reason, the program has made it so random stars occur at a rate of 100% on the Tyson fight. So as long as you have a star in the bank, you can get a star on every single punch. The good pattern at the end of the fight is for Tyson to go into uppercuts after his third hook. Sometimes he can go back into hooks, and you won't be able to land those 2 star punches to finish the fight. The odds of him going into uppercuts is a favourable 75%, so technically, Tyson can be defeated in the minimum amount of punches more than half the time. With the game now completed, how many punches did it take to win? Minor Circuit took 18 punches, Major Circuit was beaten in 37 punches, and the World Circuit plus Tyson combined for 65 punches. Overall, there was 120 punches needed to beat the game, and the odds to pull it off with perfect play? Yeah, not great. I have made a few iterations of this TAS on my channel in the past, finding small optimizations each time, but I haven't been able to find anything better for a few years. So how close was your original guess? Which fight surprised you the most? Do you have any ideas for improving any fights? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.